in a world that's falling apart.
Two friends roll the dice on movies and talk about the roles each film has had in their lives and more.
It's Cinema Roll!
Hello, I'm your host, Fish, and let's give it up for your other host.
Hi, that's me, Squid. In our last episode, we rolled the dice to choose a movie.
All right, so we rolled Like Water for Chocolate. I have not seen this movie.
We watched it in my high school Spanish class, which you will appreciate greatly when you see it.
With this movie being in Spanish and from 1992, we struggled to find clips from our regular sources. Because of that, we opted to not include clips from this movie in this episode. Lo siento.
This episode's movie is Like Water for Chocolate, released in 1992. I rented this twice on Amazon Prime because I did not watch it both times in the 48-hour window I had to watch it again once I had started it. How about you? How'd you watch this, Fish?
Oh, I just got it from the library in a 6-disc set of foodie movies.
Oh, yeah.
It was real weird. It was the only thing in the collection I watched.
Did anyone else in your household watch any of the other movies?
No, it's probably worth me pulling up what the other 5 movies are. I could go upstairs and get it, but I'm far too lazy for that.
Yeah, but then you could make yourself hot chocolate.
No, I can't. It's too late for that. I'm going to impromptu quiz you. I'm going to name other actors contained within the box set. And you tell me if you think you can name any of the 5 other
I'm gonna lose
movies.
This game
I think
so
you
fast.
might. No, I think you might get 2 of them.
Okay.
All right. Meryl Streep, Amy Adams, Juliette Binoche. I don't know if I'm saying that one correctly.
I don't even know who that one is.
Judi Dench, Julia Roberts, James
Julia Roberts
Franco.
is in Eat, Pray, Love.
There you go. That's one. All right. So there's one more you might get. James Franco, Sofia Vergara. And that's the end of the list of the names I know and the actors they list that are not in Like Water for Chocolate.
And they're food movies?
Yeah. So there's only one more that I think you would get.
I have no idea.
The other movies, there's Julie and Julia.
Oh.
That's the...
Right.
Mm-hmm,
and that's what Meryl Streep is in.
Correct. And then Chocolat.
Oh, and I've actually seen that.
Have you? Okay. And then Chef, which I don't know anything about. I have no idea what that is.
You know what would be really funny if Ratatouille was in there?
It would be amazing. And The Taste of Things. So that rounds it out.
Interesting.
Those are the 6 movies that I brought home. And yeah, I did not spend any time with Eat, Pray, Love, Julie and Julia, or any of the others.
Yeah, I can't remember when I saw Chocolat. I didn't take French, and I feel like that would be a French class movie. Like, this was a Spanish class movie, which, oh my God.
Yeah, so let's start there. You watched this in Spanish class.
In a high school Spanish class.
Yeah.
And I cannot for the life of me remember if it was freshman or sophomore year, or if it was later in, like,
was it
my
edited
senior year.
At all?
No, and we watched it twice. We watched it like one class day period we watched with subtitles, and then the next we watched without, and then we were like quizzed on it. And honestly, it's probably why I put it on this list, was because I distinctly remember a lot of parts of this movie. Oddly enough, not the ones you would think a high schooler would remember. And I remembered them very out of order. I definitely remembered the last scene of the movie. The quails with rose petals meal. And I kind of laughed when I started the movie, and it's rated R, which I obviously remember because there's nudity in it, but I don't remember bringing home a permission slip.
Well, and I definitely feel like you would today.
Oh yeah, I don't even know
if someone would even
today.
chance it, like right.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I mean, I
maybe
could see
some
certain
high school
parts of it being shown, but like, I mean, if you just look at it without the nudity part of it, right? And one of the warnings that made me chuckle, the warnings were flashing lights and sexuality. And like, sure, sexuality, I guess, is part of this, but I mean, there's full-on nudity. You see, there's male frontal nudity, which is
exactly. It's so you get
rare.
male and female, full frontal and backside nudity. Yeah, I mean, in high school we did. I mean, you and I went to the same high school, but I watched the 1968 Romeo and Juliet in high school.
Spanish.
And in that, Juliet is topless in one scene. And like, again, I don't think we took the notes on it. And I just remember the reason I remember is thinking, okay, I didn't know that we could do this in school. That's very tame in comparison to what happened in like Water for Chocolate.
And I remember the shower scene where the shower sets on fire and she runs out of it into the arms of the guy
revolutionary
on horseback. It was very interesting. I also would like to note that when I watched this in high school, at the end, I remembered them being old. And
like real, like old, you're saying?
Yes. In my head, they were ancient. They didn't know
just
aging
starting
makeup.
to get gray. Like he looked like he might have had a little salt and pepper going on in his hair.
But they didn't do like any aging makeup, and there weren't really a whole lot of like really intense special effects or I don't think there was any CGI in this movie. But the first watch, I was like, okay, I thought they were gonna be like in their like 80s. And they look the same age or younger than I am now. What the fuck? Like,
yeah.
So I definitely like misremembered some of this. I did remember quite possibly the ickiest part of the movie, which is that the sister Gertrudis who runs away. They say that she's the child of the mulatto, and that being explained to us that it was a derogatory term. And we talked about the reason that Gertrudis has rhythm, presumably is because she's 1/4 black. And the stereotype was that black people have rhythm. And to me, it's kind of the ickiest part of the movie and really the only thing that doesn't age very well. Although if you look at it from of the time, not of the time it was filmed or written, but of the time it took place, then I guess it's fine.
I mean, it certainly wouldn't have been problematic back then to say that. The weird thing about the rhythm comment to me is that, and I'm just going to say Rosora for, I don't know how you actually pronounce her name, but I'm just going to say Rosora throughout this whole podcast so that I don't have to overthink it. The weirdest thing about the rhythm comment to me is that Rosora, when she's commenting on it, says, I don't know where she gets her rhythm. Mom didn't like to dance and Dad couldn't. That's not her dad. So
she didn't know.
She knows that. She had to know that.
Or she was in super denial. But, at one point.
It's possible she didn't know, but it's not like, when they said that at the party when Juan found out and then subsequently died, like, it didn't seem like people were keeping it a big secret.
Yeah, but she was a kid. I don't know.
It's possible she didn't know, but that I just assumed later on.
Like, I think she was just
at some point been told and figured it out, but. Yeah, could be.
She had a very different relationship with her mother and, held her mother to the highest standard and was treated very differently by her mother. And I think because she left also before Mama Elena died, she didn't really see the worst of her. And when you are an older child and have a different relationship with your parents and see different sides of them, it definitely changes how you view them later. You don't see Mama Elena talking to Rosora like she talks to Tita at all, especially when Mama Elena sends Pedro and Rosora away. And then Mama Elena berates Tita for every single thing she does. The bathwater's too hot. The door is open too far. Yeah. She leaves the iron on the dress and it burns the dress. And so fine, give me the dirty one or I'll,
all
die
of that
cold.
Was Elena's fault. And so I think at this moment, it's a good point for me to say that I felt like Mama Elena has a real like Lady Tremaine vibe from Cinderella. I mean, so first of all, in the way that she dresses somewhat in the hair and everything, but also she's a widow. She spends the entire movie commanding and controlling Tita. She likes
treating her like a maid.
Mm-hmm. She likes to throw these parties among society, somewhat, and, have people. She has 2 other daughters. No, they're not stepsisters, and they're not evil directly, but she has 2 other daughters. So I was like, she's kind of Lady Tremaine.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see that.
And just to kind of carry on with a couple related things with that. So this idea that she has of the youngest daughters take care of the mothers, and that's how it's been for generations. What if oops all boys?
Yeah, I
Like, what do you do? Just as
well,
curious,
and
like, what's the plan for that? What if somebody only had boys?
Rosora's first child is a boy, and what if that was her only child?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a traumatic birth, and she almost died once. What if that was it?
Though
And
I don't think Rosora really wanted to be like her mother, especially in carrying on that until she found out what was going on with Pedro and Tita, because then she like really, I feel like out of anger and resentment and everything, doubled down on that and was like, fine, I'm gonna be like Mama, because the two of them both, the traumatic things that happened in their lives drove them to, I think, that kind of harsh behavior into fearing emotion and all of that.
yeah,
But
the
also
transformation of her into her mother, into Mama Elena,
literally
was
looked like, dressed like her.
remarkable. I mean, if you had told me that those two actresses were related, I would have believed you. They did such a wonderful job casting them. And the actress that played Rosora did a really great job kind of embodying Mama Elena in those last scenes with her dressed like that. I will say, as much as I hated Mama Elena, I did really love when she was like, men aren't that important for living.
Mhm.
Like, such a hot take, not just for when the film was released in 1992, but for the time the film takes place itself, which was, in the 1800s. Like, that's a hot take. And for better or worse, Mama Elena was a pretty strong woman. She was a widower who didn't remarry and, worked the farm on her own, sort of, right? She had help. She had Tita and Chencha and Nacha, and, presumably a few other people helping, whether they were permanent help or temporary help and came as they were needed. She did all that, on her own, basically, as the only adult for some time. And that's kind of impressive, even though she's kind of a dick.
So there's two things kind of relating to that. One is that in all of the important scenes at the ranch anyway, there are either no men around or they're doing nothing of importance. Right. So everyone doing anything, carrying any weight in this movie, in any of the important scenes at the ranch, is a woman. And the only guy who does anything of any actual importance is the doctor. And really just when Tita goes and stays with him. And I'm going to go ahead and posit a fun theory that I don't think is necessarily intended, but I like this theory that I came up with, that at least Elena and Tita, if not running through the entire family, they're witches, right?
Oh, we're not pausing this. This conversation is happening because
No, I said positing.
Oh, positing. I thought you said we're pausing this. Like,
no,
I was going to be deleting this conversation.
No.
Absolutely not. This movie lives in the same world as Practical Magic does.
And The Craft.
There's definitely that witchy. I mean, at one point, when Tita was holding Esperanza, I noticed on my second watch that the spoon in the milk was like continuing to move. And it does that in Practical Magic. Sally stirs her tea just on its own. And like the colors of this movie were very similar to those in Practical Magic. And but it gave me some very similar vibes, right? There's like a love curse in Practical Magic, and it's kind of sort of what goes on here. There's definitely some witchery for sure.
In The Craft, Robin Tunney's character, they say, "Oh, you're a natural witch like your mother." So there's kind of these, there's the other witches in The Craft that are all people who read spells and did stuff, but they didn't have any native power inherent in themselves, whereas the main character and her mother before her were natural witches. Stuff just kind of happened to them. They didn't mean necessarily to always make things happen, but it was just kind of a power in them. And I was like, that kind of feels like what's happening here. And when you look at a bunch of things that happen in the movie, and I know some of it, again, you could argue is either hyperbole or just meant to kind of be funny ways to say things that involve, but sweeping up 30 pounds of salt from Tita's birth and cooking with it, that feels like witchy stuff.
Also floor salt. They used floor salt.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to call it a germaphobe, but I I am very clean in my kitchen, especially, and that kind of thing. Like I do not, if it's on the floor, it's in the trash. But yeah, it definitely witchy vibes there too.
But then tons of stuff obviously happens with the food that Tita makes. And we know that that's a big focus on the movie. The roses in the sauce is like blood magic, right? So is that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they turned color. It was kind of unclear, and I didn't really talk about it in my notes, but it's listed on IMDb as a mistake because he hands her pink roses, and then when she cooks with them, they're red. But apparently in the book and in kind of some of the movie notes, it's kind of understood that the roses changed to red because the thorns scratched her, which you see in the movie, and they absorbed her blood. And that's part of the reason that was such a potent meal.
But the cake, which I have a couple other notes about, makes people sick. The chilies at the end, the mole, all these things are impacting people. So there's all of Tita's cooking, but Rosaura's cooking kills her son, basically, right? And her negativity.
I mean, and it made them sick.
I think, right. Like, so I think her negativity and maybe her sadness, I don't know, made all of her food bad in the opposite way of what happened with Tita, or just maybe because she was never really a very positive or person filled with love, whatever.
Well, but Tita also made Rosaura very sick. Tita ultimately killed Rosaura. And I found myself wondering, like, why didn't she just kill her mother and break the curse? Like, yeah. I mean, I think the first time that she really affects anybody with her food is with the wedding cake. So maybe she hadn't fully realized or even realized her powers at all. But if I were alone with that woman and she treated me that way, it would make me so angry and bitter that it would have had to, if I had those same powers, it would have had to affect the food I was making her. And I don't understand how Mama Elena didn't get sick at all from the cooking.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless it's something to do with the, like, witchy family stuff, who knows? But then there's the much more blatant, like, after Mama Elena's dead, the doors blowing open, her spirit showing up to Tita multiple times, cursing her and her child. And then when Tita confronts Mama Elena the second time and, like, sends her away, makes herself no longer pregnant, and then Mama Elena, like, turns into a fireball and burns Pedro.
Yeah.
Like, all of that, I'm just like, this is totally a witchy movie, which is one of two things that really surprised me about this movie, because I really thought I was just settling in for a Spanish language romance, and that's all this was going to be. And boy, was I wrong about that. Like, there was a lot more going on that I did not expect. And then, just for the fun of it, because I feel like I have to, when Tita was kind of doing that confrontation with Mama Elena, the last time that you see her, before Pedro gets burned, I felt like she was all, you have no power over me, like Sarah in the labyrinth.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, because that is how they say you banish a spirit from your home. You say, you have no power over me. Get out of my home. I don't want you here. You don't belong here. And I liked that it worked.
But then as her last, like, dick move, burning Pedro sucks for Pedro, but that's how Rosaura confirmed everything. And so that's what took that all to the next level, with Rosaura then confronting Tita, and yeah, so that whole thing. Anyway, that's all of my notes on the witchcraft of it all, but it really was like, wow, all right, so this is a straight up family of witches.
Yep.
I mean, it's also would have to be magical that like that Gertrudis, that her scent traveled so far to attract the revolutionary to her.
Well, and he had already seen her, but he didn't know where she lived, and he didn't know how to get there. So
he followed the, like, scent of the roses from when she was showering.
After she masturbated at the dinner table. I would rather swipe through Tinder. Thank you very much.
Yep, agreed. I'd take any Rossi dinner over any I can't think of their last name, but
farts and Tinder over whales and rose petals.
Yeah. All right, so we mentioned the cake, and
yes.
I want to say, when I was watching this, up until I happened to look up a couple random notes, I was all 170 eggs in this economy? Like, but I seriously was like, okay, the average cake we would make these days, 2 to 3 eggs, right? and feeds, say, a dozen people, like if it was a round layer cake. So that means that with 170 eggs, you're looking at like 56 cakes, feeding like 670-ish people. Almost 700 people. And I was like, that wedding had what, 40, 50 people max?
Yeah, but I think that I haven't made a from scratch cake, honestly, probably ever. And I think that typically from scratch cakes versus like the mix that you add 2 or 3 eggs and oil and water to, I think from scratch cakes typically require more eggs, and that's one of the things you can do to make a box cake mix taste more like a homemade cake. And it was a very big cake, but
it was
yeah.
Not that many, but I did end up looking up because I happened to see at the end that there were several chapters named after foods on the DVD. And so like chapter 3 is the wedding cake chapter, and it's named, and I, again, I'm not going to know how to pronounce this. I almost want to say it like the Hebrew way, like a Kabbalah wedding cake. But it's probably Kabbalah or Kabbalah, Chabela, I don't know, whatever. This cake is the kind of cake they were making according to the name of the chapter. And that cake requires a shit ton of eggs.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. 17 eggs.
For a single regular serving size cake. So then I was like, all right, that's fair. If you're making a multi-tiered wedding cake and it's this kind of cake, now I get it.
Yeah.
And also, if you live on a ranch and you have your own, I don't know if they were quail eggs they were using or if they were chicken eggs.
They were chicken eggs for sure.
Okay.
Quail eggs are like teeny tiny.
Oh, right. They are tiny, aren't they?
In which case, 170 of them in a regular cake box mix makes
not
perfect
be
sense.
enough. Right. So anyway, I just had a little bit of fun being like, why? That's so many eggs.
Yeah, so the book itself, it does apparently actually have recipes in it. So it probably has the actual quote unquote recipe for the cake, and it probably is very similar to this one. We'll make sure to link that recipe along with a bunch of other links in the show notes.
Did you appreciate that, very similar to in our Easy A episode when we were talking about the like rage crafting, that Tita likes to sad crochet, and she had the giant blanket that trailed behind her when she left that was and what was 200 feet long.
Really remarkable about that was that they had to have made that because there really weren't any, like I mentioned before, there really weren't any super special effects in this movie. It was all practically done. Like the end when her mouth is lighting up after she's eating the matches, she's got an LED light in there. Well, it probably wasn't even an LED light. It was probably an incandescent light bulb with a battery that was just blinking. It was all very practical effects. And so they had to have made that blanket in real life, or at least, stitched together multiple blankets. It's also kind of funny because I have been trying to learn how to crochet for almost a year now, and then I did not at all. Alas, I do not have a 200-foot blanket that I would live in. I'd probably still have to fight the dog for it, but...
I'll go ahead and say this. I think Pedro probably is my least favorite part of this whole movie.
Honestly, Pedro's kind of a dick.
But he also has no cool. Like, there would be so few issues with him if he could just chill or do anything normal for like 5 seconds. His dad, cooler dude than Pedro, because when he accepts the counterproposal to marry Rosara instead, and then they're immediately outside, and his dad's like, why would you do that? The hell's the matter with you? And he's like, oh, for love, to be near her or whatever. Like, okay. But he gives Tita flowers for her anniversary as head cook right in front of his
wife.
Betrothed, like, right? I know with the rose petal sauce quail dish, he was like everyone else under the influence of it, but he's like, oh, it's the nectar of the gods.
Yeah. After talking about how shitty his wife's cooking was. And his single raised eyebrow after putting a forkful of rice in his mouth after Rosario's first meal was absolutely hilarious to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he follows Tita around all the time and like goes looking for her.
When the shower burns on fire and he's like all close to her, and then it's like, oh, gotta go, your mom's coming, but he's like trying to be close to her. And then when they're all sleeping outside and he's like, let's make out over on this, like,
after he followed
her. Like, guy, you're like 5 feet from your wife who's sleeping outside. Like, it's just, dude had no chill and could not
also him being like
himself.
I love you and I need to know if you love me too. And Tita being like, well, I need time. And him not respecting that was super rude. Immediately, I was like, Tita, you could do so much better. And honestly, at first, I didn't really I call him Doc Brown because why not?
Me too. Yeah. He's Doc Brown in all of my notes.
Yeah. At first I was like, ew, he's such a creep. But in the end, he was such a better person. He gave Tita the choice to marry him. You see that she chose not to. And he was obviously very sad about that, but he respected her choice.
Yeah.
And Pedro was just at one point in my notes, I said, Gertrudis is a badass, Doc knows, and Pedro is an ass.
When she agreed to get married to Doc Brown, he was such a little, pissant about the whole thing. And I'm like, dude, you married her sister and have had 2 kids with her. How long do you expect this woman? And granted, she did continue to pine after him, and then the whole thing happened and they set on fire and died. But, how long do you expect somebody to hold out for you? And you're going to have these 2 kids. You moved away to San Antonio. All this shit happened. Just let it go. I don't know. And it bugged me that he had to give her permission. So whatever. This house doesn't. Men are not that important to have around, nor is the revolution as dangerous. Pedro, it's worse to have chilies with no water. Sorry, I love that quote. It's good. Yeah. Speaking
of chilies with no water, who didn't eat a chili at the last wedding dinner? Was it Doc?
Probably not. He wasn't hungry because he was all mad. I don't know.
I kind of assume that he knows the effect that Tita's food has on people, and he didn't want to pine after her because he knew that she didn't love him and he would just end up heartbroken again. And maybe he didn't want to end up heartbroken like Nacha, who very clearly died of heartbreak after eating the wedding cake.
I think.
But at the same time, I will say there was not a point in this movie that I wasn't rooting for Tita. As much as I was to just be happy and to get whatever it was that she decided she wanted. Because, at one point she seems to want to care for her mother, even though she didn't at the beginning. And, you can see her trying to do that and trying to be a good daughter. And even though it's breaking her heart, when her heart breaks after her nephew dies, you want her to recover from that. You want her to be happy. When Doc professes his love for her, you want her to love him back. You want her to be happy. You want her to end up with some good. And at one point I was like, fine, end up with Pedro, even though you could have married a doctor. At one point was good for you, Tita, for bagging a doctor and marrying for money, not love.
Yeah.
Even though she ended up not. I don't know.
I agree with you on all that. And I don't know. I mean, I know she wouldn't have been marrying for love, but she would have married into a relationship with a dude who did seem to love her and would have done just about anything for her. It wouldn't have been a passionate life, but again, Pedro sucks. It seems like it would have 100%. Been better than...
I mean, Doc did do everything for her. He dropped everything and took her into his home when she had broken and pulled her out of a pigeonhole covered in presumably feathers and pigeon shit and put her in his bed or in his wife's old bed because presumably his wife had passed away, and took her in and did his best in his awkward, nerdy way at times to bring her out of her shell and help her recover, and showing her science experiments.
Right.
And making fun of his own cooks, whose name was Sue Ellen, by the way.
Are you ready to do this?
Was really funny. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So why do you know the name Sue Ellen?
From Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which came out a year before this movie.
Okay.
And it just, I kind of chuckled every time that they said it because I was like, I'm right on top of that, Rose.
For those who know Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, there's something about Doc Brown and Gus, even though Gus is a creep in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. But there's something about the two of them. Maybe it's just an early 90s thing. They've got some real similar facial features going on. I don't know. I paused it at this one point and was like, oh shit, Doc Brown looks like, and it was right when they were talking about Sue Ellen, and I was like, all right then. So that's a really random, but very few people that I talk to on a regular basis know anything about Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Basically a few people in my family and Squid. So
which is unfortunate because it's such a good movie. Yeah, I had to double check to see when Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead was released, and it's 1991, which was the year before this movie, but after the book. So I'm sure there's not a tie. It was just so funny because Sue Ellen in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead is such an old sounding name. And then in this movie that takes place in the late 1800s, it seems like such a modern name.
I mean, they
So
do
it's just
in
kinda
Don't Tell
funny.
Mom the Babysitter's Dead, they call her Swell. Like, those that know her call her Swell. So I want to give Doc Brown some credit here, other than the being an actually decent guy throughout the majority of the movie. I don't think his whole story about the matches and the oxygen and the candle really holds up. Like, this idea that there are matches inside of us and the oxygen is a lover's breath and the candle is the thing you're lighting, like your soul or your heart or something like that. I mean, certainly from a sciencey perspective, that doesn't really make much sense. But even just in general, like, it's a little bit of a weird thing. But his Kickapoo grandmother, right, was, I think, kind of the person that Morningstar or whatever her name was, because I think that kind of taught him this. And so that's cool. But it relates to the other surprising part of this movie for me. So he then also talks about, like, what happens if your matches get damp. And I was like, that's depression. Like, and so the mental health part of this movie too, again, I thought I was going into this just for like a romance movie, and there's all this really intense stuff that happens around mental health and what happens when you're in an abusive familial relationship. And I was like, well, I really didn't expect any of that, to have these ideas of depression and joy. And these, again, the matches inside of us thing doesn't sound like a perfect analogy, but it does sound like something that a therapist would tell me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, there's like mental health lessons in this movie that I was not expecting.
Yeah, for sure. And we haven't even touched on what the movie title actually even means yet, which we can do now. So the phrase like water for chocolate, or in Spanish, como agua para chocolate, comes from the idea that your emotions get so hot, whether it's like sexually hot for someone or otherwise hot. It got a couple mixed signals on it, but basically that you get so hot for someone that you're hot enough to melt chocolate, essentially. So it references the exact temperature water needs to be to make hot chocolate, because in Mexico you make hot chocolate with water, and it refers to emotions, particularly sexual emotions, boiling over, which is why the title is what it is. I did find that the title was changed for a couple languages that this movie was released in, because that title wouldn't have made sense in those languages. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting look at emotions and how they affect you and how other people's emotions affect you outside of just being a romance, because it is kind of a romance, but it's also a little bit deeper than that, which is interesting.
I don't want to step on quotes in case we end up there, but I do want to just mention what I think it was Nacho's quote. It was, only the pots know the boiling points of their broths.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's related, right, to that whole concept that you just discussed. And
and they talk about how later, when Tita is at Doc's house, the narrator, who's Tita's great niece, talks about how Tita and Chanchan knew that broth could cure everything. And I think that kind of plays into that as well a little bit. So
agreed. So what was your focus this time around, Squid?
So I did a deep dive on this one. It was a little bit of a challenge for two reasons. One, this is a much older movie, so there wasn't a whole lot on the internet about it, like there might be now for a more modern movie. And also in 2024, HBO released a miniseries on this movie. And so a lot of what I was finding was coming up there, which I'm not going to lie, I kind of want to watch the miniseries, and I might pull it up the next time I need something, like when I'm between shows or, kind of want something a little different. I might pull it up and watch it. So the film was based on a book, actually. The author, Laura Esquivel, was actually involved in the film. She was the writer of the film as well. So this is probably a movie that holds up really well compared to the book, which is not always the case. I did discover that the book is now part of a 3-book series. There's like Water for Chocolate, a novel in monthly installments with recipes, romances, and home remedies. And there's Tita's Diary, like Water for Chocolate Book 2, and The Colors of My Past, like Water for Chocolate Book 3. All of which are available on Amazon, and I will link in our show notes and on our website, cinemaroll.com. I did discover a few really interesting things about the people involved in this movie. The director, Alfonso Arau, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and I'm sorry. He was married to the author of the book when the movie was released. They divorced a few years later, but he also directed A Walk in the Clouds, played El Guapo in Three Amigos, and voiced Papa Julio in Coco.
Oh, what? No way. Sorry,
Yeah.
big Coco fan.
So my favorite little piece of trivia about the movie is that the guy who plays Pablo actually didn't speak Spanish. He's Italian. And according to IMDb, when Alfonso Arau was asked why he chose an Italian who didn't speak Spanish for the male lead, he said he couldn't find anyone as beautiful as Marco Leonardi in Mexico. So they did actually dub his lines over with someone else's Spanish. It was one of the highest grossing foreign films in the United States, and it ran in theaters for a record number of consecutive weeks. It was nominated for a Golden Globe in '92, and the Ariel Awards are awarded annually by the Mexican Academy of Film Arts and Sciences in Mexico, and this movie received 10 out of the 14 awards it was nominated for, which is incredible. It won Best Picture, Best Director. Doc John Brown's, the actor who played him, Mario Ivan Martinez, won Best Actor. The woman who played Mama Elena and the woman who played Tita both won Best Actress. Gertrudis, she won Best Supporting Actress. Margarita Isabel, Paquita Lobo, I'm assuming one of the gossipy ladies, she won Best Actress in a minor role. Laura Esquivel won for Best Screenplay. Emmanuel Lubezki won for Best Cinematography. It also won for Best Production Design and Best Set Design. So that's pretty impressive. But what I found really interesting was the cinematographer in this movie, Emmanuel Lubezki. He is a cinematographer, producer, and director. His producer and director work is mostly foreign or short film work, but his cinematography or director of photography resume includes The Revenant, Birdman, Gravity, Children of Men, A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Cat in the Hat, yes, the Mike Myers version, Ali, Sleepy Hollow, Meet Joe Black, Great Expectations, The Birdcage, A Walk in the Clouds, and Reality Bites, among a bunch of other foreign stuff. So he is a very talented and well-known, whether you realize it or not, cinematographer, which I thought was really, really interesting. And I also discovered that there have been a few other adaptations of the book, including a ballet and, like I mentioned before, that recent HBO series. I'm sure there have been others as well, but those are what stuck out to me. It's got pretty good reviews. I found the Rotten Tomatoes review, which is currently sitting at 88% on the tomato meter and 84% on the popcorn meter. And I found Roger Ebert's review of it from 1993, which was also a very good review. And I found a couple other blog posts or articles about it that were just kind of interesting reads. So I'll link those in the show notes as well. It's kind of an interesting deep dive because of who was involved in this movie. At first, I didn't really recognize anybody. I was kind of hopeful that maybe there would be some cast members, but most everybody's just been in foreign stuff that I haven't seen. But the director and the cinematographer are definitely a little bit more well-known here in the United States, which was really interesting.
To just connect to that one of those last little things you talked about, I felt like Tita seemed super familiar to me and couldn't figure out why. And then I was looking at something on IMDb and I was like, oh, okay. She was in Bottle Rocket, which is Wes Anderson's first full-length movie, and interestingly enough, Owen and Luke Wilson's first movie.
Oh, okay.
And she plays the motel housekeeper that Luke Wilson's character falls in love with in the movie. And I was like, so I've not only seen her before, but decades ago, and I've watched that movie not recently, but I've watched it a number of times. I like it. It's a good movie. So I was like, I have seen Tita before. But yeah, so that was fun. Did you happen to uncover that, according to what I saw, the actors for Pedro and Tita dated for the 8 years starting at and then following this movie?
I did not. That's interesting.
And they had a bulldog together when they were living in Hollywood named Ben-Hur. And then kind of the weirdest random little fact, just for the fun of it, that I found that I could not verify to save my life. I'm going to go ahead and say this sounds like something that somebody just made up at some point. Supposedly, Luis Fonsi, yes, like Despacito Luis Fonsi, was one of Pedro's friends in the movie. He's old enough, so that part checks out. But that's the only thing that I could find, because he's credited on IMDb as being part of the movie. He's not in the movie credits, but that doesn't always happen if it's a very bit part. People don't always put you
Yeah,
in
or
the
if he's like a
credits.
background actor or something.
So supposedly he's in there, so I was not going to go back and try and find out where. But then I learned that he went to high school with Joey Fatone. They were friends, and they were in an a cappella group called the Big Guys back in high school.
Amazing.
So there's some fun, totally random trivia for you that I happened to uncover.
I know I added this to our list because I remembered watching it in high school. I did not realize that it was as high of a grossing movie and as awarded of a movie as it is. Even though by today's standards, being nominated for one Golden Globe isn't really that big of a deal. Back in 1992, for it to have been a foreign film be nominated for a Golden Globe, I think is huge, especially because there was no English version. It's dubbed in Spanish. So this is our first non-English film that we had to watch completely with subtitles.
Yeah, right. We go from a movie where 75% of the family doesn't speak at all. Our earlier episode, Coda, going to a movie where there's only maybe 3 to 4 lines of English in the entire thing, and there's no.
I will note that my favorite English part kind of reminded me of one of my favorite movies, which is his aunt who wants to meet Tita before the wedding, who talks.
Doc Brown's aunt?
Yes, Doc Brown's aunt. She talks about what a wonderful cook Tita is. And then Doc notices that there's something going on with Tita and asks her what's going on. And she's like, "Hi, we need to talk, but I can't talk to you about it now." And he's like, "Don't worry. My aunt is totally deaf. And she only reads lips in English. So we can talk Spanish around her. It's no big deal. Look at this." And he says, "I'm only marrying Tita because she's crazy," in Spanish. And the aunt sits there not paying attention at all because she's invested in her meal and also deaf. And it reminded me of Aunt Bethany in Christmas Vacation.
Oh. So my area of focus for this one was marketing. And unfortunately, there wasn't a ton to unearth here. I looked at all the different posters and, saw that they were pretty much all the same to a certain extent. It was mostly Pedro and Tita in varying states of shadow. Sometimes you saw some of their torsos, sometimes it was just their faces. And then the, obviously, titles changed based on the language. I did note that it was fun that in most of them they took the O's in the actors' names and in the title and put them in like superscript almost. Like, it was just kind of weird. It's for the fun of it. And that was it for the poster part of it. The release itself, and I do have an article from Variety from 1993. Thank you, Internet, for maintaining these things for us. That is not solely about this movie, but it is about like indie films, which it's funny to me because back in the early 90s, Miramax, the studio, was seen as an indie studio. And now I don't think anybody really would feel that way. But in the 90s, it certainly was, and they were doing lesser known things. They were doing some of Kevin Smith's movies and then stuff like this. So this had a limited release in New York and LA in February of 92. But then Miramax, to get more interest nationwide in the States, worked with Telemundo on ticket giveaways and book giveaways, because it was only 3 years prior that the book came out in Mexico, but it came out in an English translation in 1992. So basically right alongside the movie in the States. So they got to do some tie-ins with that, and they worked with Telemundo and did giveaways. And then they ran a lot of TV ads on other cable networks to get some interest in the movie. I did watch a bunch of the trailers and TV spots, and I will say they really do bill this as a romance. When you watch how it's portrayed in the trailers and the TV ads, that's all they're really focusing on is the romance between Pedro and Tita. And again, I think that's misleading because that is, it is certainly the central focus of the movie, but so much other stuff happens, and this is not a happy romp. This is, not a fun movie in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we haven't even really talked about the ending in full, where after the wedding of Esperanza to Doc Brown's kid, Pedro and Tita go to the barn where there's all the candles and they have sex, and then he dies.
Yeah.
Presumably, I want to kind of go back to Doc Brown's thing. Like, was it that all of his matches got lit at the same time? Because he said that would kill you, basically. That would, send
that's
you
what I
to
assume.
whatever, right? So he got everything he wanted all at once, and all his matches got lit, and he died. And then, right, she, in kind of a very Juliet way, was like, well, he's dead, so I might as well die too. And then started eating the matches. And
after covering him with some of her 250-foot long blanket,
the crochet blanket of sadness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is all shades of blue, basically. I did want to touch on one marketing thing that I found. It was listed on IMDb, and I try to take some of what's listed on IMDb a little bit with a grain of salt in terms of things like trivia and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But it does say here that to further mine the food as an aphrodisiac theme of the movie, Miramax persuaded 30 Mexican restaurants nationwide in the United States to recreate dishes from the film and invited amateur chefs to submit their most seductive recipes for a prize, a trip to Mexico. And then it says the studio's greatest coup was 2 parties in New York during July, celebrating the fact that the film had outgrossed Cinema Paradiso to become the most successful foreign film language in the last 10 years. The first party drew 1,000 people, including Mayor David N. Dinkins, to Amazon Village, a Tribeca night spot. And partygoers watched the actress who played Gertrudis reprise the film's nude horseback riding scene on the West Side Highway. And then they feasted on a wedding banquet identical to the one in the movie. So
yeah, I saw that and tried to verify any of it and could not. So it very well may be true, and again, just something lost to time and lack of internet. But
yeah, because I can't imagine that was like paparazzi coverage was so different back then. It was really only the big stars that got any paparazzi coverage, and I don't feel like this is anything that would have granted that kind of coverage back then for sure.
Yeah. I mean, somebody lady Godiving it down the highway might get some attention, but
maybe. But alas, there was definitely no digital photography, so any of those negatives are probably long lost. If there were any photographers there.
I did think it was interesting at the end. After they died, they showed the two of them exactly like the drawing that Doc Brown showed. Again, I didn't totally understand everything about his metaphor, and that was the part that really lost me. I was like, I don't know what you're saying really with this whole matches thing. And specifically, he really lost me at the tunnel going back to birth. I don't really know what's happening anymore in this story.
And presumably there's like an afterlife, so you're going back to like a new birth kind of thing. Yeah, it was definitely a weird story. And he probably told it wrong or something too.
It also could be some lost in translation kind of stuff, right? I'm reading.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Because at the same
Spanish,
time.
And I'm reading subtitles, and who knows if it's well translated.
And it kind of wasn't, because they say, the subtitles say that when her heart is broken by Pedro marrying her sister, she takes up knitting. But it's very clearly crochet. So, yeah, there's probably some translating that didn't work very well, which makes sense.
But all of this as a really long roundabout way to say that when it comes to the marketing of this movie, they really marketed it as like just a romance, and you should watch this because watch these two people fall in love, and that is not a gross misrepresentation of what's happening in this movie. Certainly part of it.
I did have a greater appreciation for this movie as an adult than I did at high school age, for sure. Not only because it was like, I'm watching this movie because I'm going to be quizzed on it, and I'm watching a movie where there's boobs and naked people in a room where there's also boys, but I just have a deeper appreciation for like everything that goes on in this movie as an adult.
I feel like my big takeaway as an adult is I want to try putting an onion on my head and seeing what happens next time I'm cutting an onion.
I might do that.
I'd do it. I'll put an onion on my head. Take a shower afterwards. It's fine.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
It would make your hair smell like onions, but
it would, and then my pillow would smell like onions.
All right, you want to roll for some questions?
Yeah, let's do it. You want to roll first, or do you want me to?
I got it. I got a 14. I always get this one.
I'm becoming Brundlefly.
What human-animal swap would be the best for the main character? This one's too easy. She already says it. She's a bird.
Mm-hmm.
She wishes her hands could be birds. She does a Jenny from Forrest Gump. Dear God, make me into a bird so I can fly far, far, far away. So it's a bird. She's a bird. I mean, aside from the whole quail thing where she like tries to save the one too, like it's birds. She's a bird. That's not a hard question.
All right, works for me. I got a 2.
The pen is blue. The pen is blue! The goddamn pen is blue!
Any favorite lines? I have a couple. I already talked about a couple of them. I liked Mama Elena saying, men aren't that important for living. I didn't like it necessarily, but I noted it when Pedro says, one doesn't think about love, you either feel it or you don't. I actually kind of disagree with it. I feel like you can grow into loving somebody. It's not always an immediate thing. And there's also so many different kinds of love outside of romantic love that I don't know. I don't really buy into that one. I mean, otherwise, probably would have had more lines if I watched this again. And maybe I should have watched it a third time. I had more favorite moments than favorite lines, I think. Like, I really liked when Tita saw Pedro walking into the barn and had a skirt full of either potatoes or peaches. Couldn't quite tell. And she drops some of them, and then he gets down on the ground to pick some of them up for her. And, like, looks up at her pantaloons all suggestively, and then she drops the rest of them on his head. I loved when he raises his eyebrow at Rosaura's cooking. I really liked the camera following Rosaura down the stairs after Pedro's fire mishap. I really liked that kind of shaky, off-center. I loved the hands working montage before the wedding. That wasn't Tita's wedding. It was Esperanza's wedding. Really, really liked that. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I know you mentioned you had a couple.
Yeah, I can offer you a couple more. The dramatic part of me really liked. It's a shame that at the time black holes hadn't been discovered yet, because it would have been very easy to understand that she had a black hole in her chest, allowing all the infinitely cold air to rush in.
Yeah, I did like that.
That's a good one. And then just because of the sheer strength of it, Tita's "the tradition will die with me, nothing will hurt you" to Esperanza, really bringing home that change. And it worked.
I thought I had another, but I guess I didn't put it in my notes.
All right, I got a 1. Did this age well? So, because it's a period piece, it's hard for them generally not to age well. Now, I will say, obviously, we talked about some of the terms that were used that are not used today, so you could argue that hearing terms like mulatto is not something that people are going to say these days, and that part, again, wouldn't age well, but also it was, again, a period piece, so it's accurate to the time period. I don't really feel like there's much else that you can really say about whether or not it aged well, unless you want to talk about the fact that everything was practical. They didn't really have any special effects, so everything was done probably with mostly real fire, I would assume. Or,
real sparks.
Prop fire, if you will, right? And the blanket itself and all that. This isn't really to answer the question, but I did appreciate that in their final time jump, the first thing that clues you in, other than seeing that it's 1935 or whatever, is that you've got now like indoor plumbing and cars and an actual refrigerator and the radio and all these things. So the use of technology to kind of show that time jump was, so again, not really answering the question, but just kind of a thing I appreciated that they used that in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of like that it was all practical effects and more, real stuff and not CGI and everything. I feel like if they were to redo the movie now, they'd CGI, a 250-foot long blanket and it wouldn't look great.
We'll have to see
but
if
I
you
liked
watch the
that
show.
Yeah, I will. So yeah, I think from a movie standpoint, it aged well. The issues covered in the movie are kind of timeless. The love aspect, the magic aspect, the awful mother, that's all stuff that people will always be able to find relation to, I feel like. So from that aspect, I think it aged pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 5.
Why am I drippings with goo?
What gave us the ick? We kind of talked about this a little bit, kind of low-key racism, and the using the stereotypes of Black people to imply that Gertrudis can dance because she's, a quarter Black. And Pedro. Pedro gave me
We
the
didn't
ick.
even talk about how he sits on the edge of the bed and is like, "Dear God, I'm sorry I'm about to have sex with my wife, but it's just to have kids, I promise." And she's like right there.
Yeah, he was awful to her.
Sucks.
He sucks for sure. And honestly, for being so in love with Tita, he was awful to her too. He did not treat her very well. Maybe that's a sign of the times, and maybe that's how, we don't see how Mama Elena's husband treated her. We see how John treats Tita, and he treats her very well. So comparatively, Pedro is a complete jerk. So yeah, Pedro gave me the ick.
Yeah, there's a couple other like little things. I mean, some of the stuff with the whales and whatnot, and like her.
Yeah, they
living with that
definitely
was
would not have shown
gross.
like plucking the feathers off the quails before cooking them.
Oh, I meant
don't
when she
think
was
they would
like
have shown that now.
naked in the
Oh,
like,
in the
quail
dove
pen, like that's or dove, dove coat.
Yeah, that was
Was-
yeah, there's like a feather on her head at one point, and it's like the dust and the poop up there had to be disgusting. Also floor salt. Floor salt gave me the ick.
Yeah, and then not in the same way, but the bandits that like tried to rape Chencha, like that scene came out of nowhere. That's such a dramatic like 1, 2, 3 cut, because you've got the like proposal and acceptance of the proposal, and then cut to the bandits going and they're trying to rape Chencha, and they theoretically kill the old man, and then they push Mama Elena through the fence, effectively leading to her death. And then you cut back to like the celebration for the proposal with Doc Brown and Tita, and then they get the information that bad stuff happened at the ranch, and now she has to go back home, which effectively ruins her next like 30 years.
Yeah.
20 years, whatever. Yeah, probably 20 years.
Yeah,
Anyway,
something like
what gave everybody the ick was the wedding cake.
and Rosario's cooking.
Also true. Oh, or Roberto.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't talk about it, but Mama Elena's reaction to Roberto's death also gave me the ick. 100%. What a cold-hearted bitch. Like,
Or
your only
slapping-
grandchild has passed away, and you're telling your only daughter who's home with you, who cared for that baby while his mother was ill, to not mourn his death, and then you
Hitting her
slap
with a
her
wooden
with a spoon in the face?
Yeah.
What an awful human being.
Right. We don't cry. No tears.
Yeah.
Even though, as I said at the beginning, she was born out of tears, it's kind of hard for her not to.
Right. Okay. Do we want to get into our ratings real quick before anything else?
Yeah.
'Cause
So what did you think of this movie overall?
I gave this a 4 out of 10 tentacles. I didn't love it, though there were parts of it that were lovely. And I liked some of the cinematography, and I liked the magic aspect of it. I don't think I would go out of my way to recommend it unless someone were kind of like, I want to watch a foreign film that's kind of like lives in the same world as maybe Harry Potter and practical magic. Like, I want something with witchy vibes, but also boobs in Spanish. I'd maybe be like, oh, you totally want to watch like Water for Chocolate. That's it.
Is that why Ebert rated it so high?
Maybe. I mean, we can quickly touch on his review.
He did 4 stars, didn't he?
Yes, it is a 4-star film
Saying.
for him.
I think that's why. Magic and boobs is his winning combination. And food.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. I'm not gonna lie, like I totally want to dig up some of the recipes and try some of them. Not the whole wedding cake, but the quails with rose sauce has kind of always intrigued me. I don't think I would serve it with like a pile of rose petals on the side and maybe do like roasted asparagus or something, but kind of sounds delicious.
I also agree that I would do the rose petal sauce on something. I don't know how easily I can get my hands on some quails, but
I mean, chicken breast is probably
right.
fine.
I was like, I could do.
For
very
chicken
comparable
thighs, I think
things.
quail is a dark meat. Although I don't know if I've ever had quail. I'm sure I could scrounge some up around here in the south.
Yeah, I mean, I've had duck.
Oh, it'd probably be really good with duck. I like duck. Anyway, what did you rate it?
So I was right there with you. I gave it a 1.5, which translates to like a 3 for you. So pretty close. I don't really see myself watching this one again. I have 2 things. One is that I'm always glad I saw something unless I truly had a bad time. And I didn't have a bad time with this. I'm glad I saw this. It was certainly interesting, and again was not at all what I expected. Not the straightforward romance that I was anticipating it to be. My other thing is that I can watch just about anything and be like, oh, and then I get weirdly nostalgic for the scenes that I like. And after watching something a couple times, it does kind of color my view of it a little bit to where I remember the best stuff. And there were some things in here that I thought were interesting or captivating or beautiful or what have you. But when I tried to step back from all of that and look at it as a whole, so I really don't think I'd want to watch this one again. So one on a Nemo fin today, like water for chocolate.
Fair.
So with that, let's find out what we're doing next. Why don't you go ahead and roll that first roll for our next movie?
All right, the D20 has given me a 3.
For the D8, we've got a 5. Okay, and for our D10, a 0, which puts us at Blazing Saddles. So I know I've seen this, but I think I have it written that I haven't seen it because I did mark things that I can't remember as having not. So I know I've seen parts of this movie. I don't know that I've ever actually seen the full thing.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. I for sure haven't seen the whole thing, but I'm almost positive I've seen parts of it.
So this is a Mel Brooks one. It's from 1974, another rated R movie in a row, and I'm very curious how this is gonna go.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
I mean, we are right at the release of the Spaceballs sequel coming up next year, right? It's not right at, but it's coming out next year. So Mel Brooks back in the conversation again, as our buddy Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Hi, Rick. Just in case,
Right, on the off chance he would listen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and roll for my focus for Blazing Saddles. And for me, that's a 12. Continuity.
Oh,
Okay.
That'll be a fun one, I feel like.
That's a new one. We haven't done it before. Right?
Yeah. Now for my focus. I got 5. Cinematography.
At this point, the only focus we haven't done or had scheduled to do is soundtracks, the music, sound effects, etc. But we have now hit all of our other focuses at least once now that we've got continuity in the mix.
It's kind of funny that we haven't talked about soundtracks yet.
Hopefully it comes up on a great movie for that, but we'll see.
I know.
You never know. Sometimes things surprise you.
For sure. All right, well, I'm looking forward to this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I'm sure we'll laugh.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, it'll be a silly movie that might kind of break up some of the drama we've had recently, although Megamind kind of filled that spot a little bit. Well, on to Blazing Saddles.
Until next time, thanks for rolling with us. Don't forget to rate us, subscribe, and share Cinema Roll with your friends. Find us on all your favorite social media at Cinema Roll Pod. Visit our website, cinemaroll.com. For ad-free episodes and more, join our Patreon. Cinema Roll is an Under the Sea media production with podcast hosts Jacob Balson and RJ Hay. This episode was edited and produced by Under the Sea Media.
Like packing peanuts. Oh, did I fuck something up?
Farts and Tinder over whales and rose petals.
I want there to be fancy chickens.
There are fancy chickens.
It's not on canapé.
Gracias por tu visita.